Failing the ICA IGST exam rarely happens because you missed the broad concepts. It happens because you stepped into a statutory boundary trap. The power to exempt goods and services from tax originates specifically in Section 11 of the CGST Act and Section 6 of the IGST Act. This split screen shows the fundamental division in how these powers are applied, absolute versus conditional. When granted absolutely, you shall not collect excess tax. It's a strict mandate. A conditional exemption operates differently. Availing this relief is strictly at the taxpayer's option. To accurately navigate ICA case studies, we must map the precise boundaries of these absolute mandates across four major sectors: charity, agriculture, education, and healthcare. Evaluating sector exemptions requires a strict mental audit to identify where the statutory line is drawn. This diagram maps the dual condition matrix. Charitable trusts must pass two distinct tests simultaneously to claim an exemption. First, the entity test. They must be registered under Section 12AA or 12AB of the Income Tax Act. Second, the activity test. They must perform a qualifying charitable activity. Activities like the Bhavya Jyoti Foundation's yoga camps or the preservation of wildlife easily clear both checkpoints. The trap lies in activities that look charitable on the surface but fail the statutory definition. Consider the ICAI case study for the ABC Trust. The trust provided skill development services to persons over the age of 65 residing in a metro city. They passed the entity test but fell into an activity trap. The statute defines skill development for the elderly as a qualifying charitable activity strictly if those individuals reside in a rural area. Failing that geographic boundary requirement renders the Section 12AB registration irrelevant, making the entire supply taxable. In agriculture, the general rule dictates that operations directly related to primary production are exempt. This Venn diagram separates primary production from intermediate processing. Activities like cultivation, harvesting, and testing drop squarely into the exempt left side. Milling paddy into rice crosses the line into taxable territory. The milling process alters the essential characteristics of the raw paddy. That physical change classifies it as a taxable intermediate process instead of primary agriculture. Livestock exemptions have an equally strict boundary. The rearing of animals and artificial insemination are exempt for all life forms, except horses. The moment the service involves horses, the exemption fails completely. If the process changes the raw product's essential character, or if the animal involved is a horse, the agricultural exemption does not apply. Educational institutions deal with two distinct streams of service. Output services, those provided by the institution to its students, faculty, or staff, are universally exempt. This universal exemption extends to entrance exam fees charged by recognized institutions or bodies like the National Testing Agency. The major statutory trap lies in input services, the services provided to the institution by private players. Look at this timeline. Outsourced services flow freely to lower grade levels, but crash into a solid wall right after higher secondary school. Outsourced security, cleaning, and catering services are strictly exempt only if provided to institutions up to the higher secondary level. Providing those exact same services to a college or university makes them fully taxable. For input services, taxability relies entirely on the academic level of the receiving institution, not the nature of the service itself. Healthcare exemptions broadly cover healthcare services provided by clinical establishments, authorized medical practitioners, and paramedics. In the Red Health Medical Center case study, the clinic operates a cord blood bank. The preservation of stem cells by these banks is explicitly classified as an exempt healthcare service. When evaluating services provided to the government, the boundary relies entirely on constitutional mapping. This flowchart maps pure services supplied to a government entity. The exemption follows two distinct paths: Article 243G for panchayats and Article 243W for municipalities. Only pure services, meaning those that exclude works contracts, provided in relation to these specific constitutional functions, bypass tax liability. Supplying a service to the government does not grant automatic immunity. The service must map directly to Article 243G or 243W functions. Assuming an exemption applies purely on a broad sector name like charity, agriculture, or education, is exactly how students fail the exam. This final matrix consolidates the statutory boundaries we've covered into a single actionable framework. These are the critical trigger words to watch for: metro city elders, rearing horses, milling paddy, and university input services. When approaching a case study, perform a two-step mental audit. First, verify the entity's status. Second, audit the activity boundary for these specific trap words. Exemptions operate as absolute mandates. Knowing the precise location of the statutory boundary is the only way to accurately determine tax liability.